One thing with which I'd like to preface is do not make any nutritional advice unless you are certified to do so. It is wrong because you're not educated sufficiently enough, no matter how much you think you are, and it also makes you liable, put you on the hook. If you were to make a recommendation to somebody based on a very superficial and not in-depth conversation, you didn't ask the right questions about their medical history and maybe some other things that could be a factor, and then you make a recommendation for what they should eat, any negative repercussions could be a lawsuit for you. In fact, even just being caught giving people nutritional advice without a certification, I think could land you in some legal trouble. So just stay away from that. That being said, I do think that it's important for you to be able to have the conversation with or without a certification with your clients about the video, article, episode, or anecdotal evidence that they're coming to you for. When you see a documentary come out and start to get popular, get on it, research it. What's going on, eaters and feeders? I've got a lot to do today, but I've also got a lot on my mind, and I haven't been able to keep up with videos because I keep trying to shoot them on the mic and the nice camera and everything. But just to get the content out there and get my thoughts out of my head and into your world so you guys can chew on them and think about them and maybe learn from them, I wanted to shoot something simple while I'm running around and doing errands. So there's a new documentary out called Game Changers, and in this video I'm going to give you my opinions on when these type of bits of information come out, whether it's a new episode or a podcast or a new documentary, a new article, new diet trend, a fad, whatever it is. There's certain things that I like to make sure I do and certain points that I want to make sure I discuss when I'm talking to a member or a potential member who calls expressing interest in one of these new fads or trends or diets or whatever the situation, whatever you want to call it. Before we get started, hit the alerts, hit the subscribe button. I don't want you missing out on any new videos that I have. If you're watching this, you're probably interested in starting or growing your meal plan company, and I'm doing videos weekly as well as be some more frequent stuff right off the hip, maybe a live video. Check out the link for the free ordering system I've created. Also, it's a great way to reach out to me.
Welcome to our channel where we go behind the scenes of our meal plan company, Fit Food Fresh, and other local businesses across South Florida. Make sure you hit the subscribe and alerts so you never miss a video, and hit us with any questions or suggestions.
So actually it's not even a new Netflix documentary is pretty popular right now called Game Changer. And if you haven't seen it yet, I would suggest checking it out, because one of the first things I want you to put in your brain as the owner of a meal prep company, you're going to need to educate yourself constantly for many reasons, especially because you're going to want to know what your clients are putting in their brains. You want to be on the same page and be able to either articulate some counterpoints or to make some suggestions based on what they want. Unfortunately, what you're going to find in this business is that trends and fads are something that you will never be impervious to. Someone is going to read something on the cover of a magazine while they're checking out at the supermarket, or Dr. Oz is going to say something, or Oprah's going to say something, or there's going to be a Netflix documentary. There's been some before, there'll be more in the future. Forks Over Knives was another one where we experienced this uptick in people wanting to all of a sudden shift their diet. And whether it's keto or paleo or Atkins diet or vegan or plant-based, there's going to be a shift all of a sudden that you're going to see in the new members and your existing members, and you're going to want to be able to accommodate their needs and these novelties that they're now interested in, but you also don't want to extend yourself beyond your wheelhouse. So first and foremost, educate yourself so you can have an intelligent conversation with them and either show them the items that already conform to that, start providing items that conform to whatever these trends are, or debunk some of the misinformation that may be in these videos. Unfortunately, in the food industry, there are a lot of powers that be kind of situation. Everyone knows about big tobacco, but there's also big corn, there's also big meat, and there's lobbyists and a bunch of propaganda artists who are constantly trying to tell us what to spend our money on, basically. Obviously, the meat lobby are going to want to tell you that meat is super healthy. Corn lobbyists are going to want to tell you that corn's healthy and that meat is healthy, because a lot of the corn production goes into feeding pigs and cows and other things that we then eat as meat. So being aware of both sides of the argument is imperative, because there's always going to be a lot of spin. And I try to take everything in, hear all the arguments I can, and then make my own decision, often after doing some research. So I'm not going to give my opinion on any of these documentaries. I myself, I will tell you that I am not a vegan. I do try to eat more plant-based, just because there is research and very compelling evidence that I've seen that leads to me believing that it's better, but I also still like to eat meat. So that's where I am, just being fully transparent. And I tell people that I have maybe 20 to 30% of my diet would be considered plant-based or vegan, but I also don't believe that it has to be 100% switch one way or the other. If you live on the extremes of anything, it's very difficult to maintain that consistency that really your success is going to be based upon. A lot of people who switch to vegan or an Atkins diet or a keto diet or a paleo diet, if they're being too strict, some people benefit from a very strict diet and they need regimen. Other people need that release. They need and a lot of people, I think, need that happy medium where they have a course to follow, but if they deviate from that path, they don't feel guilty, because a lot of people will just throw in the towel. They want to be 100% or nothing, and they feel like if they can't be consistent every day, there's something in their brain, and I think a lot of us can relate to this in one aspect of our lives or another. You might be really consistent and disciplined in the gym or with your diet, but there might be something else where without perfect consistency, you find it hard to maintain any kind of consistency. With that in mind, what I would first try to keep your clients mindful of is going to be finding a happy balance for them, making sure that whatever this diet is, if they're going to commit to it, that it correlates with their goals. I also tell them to educate themselves on both sides of the argument, just so they're as well-rounded and educated as possible on everything. But also, the people who are now calling us, they're so, and this is true, we literally had a guy yesterday who said, I see you guys have vegan options, do you have any plant-based options? And you might laugh, but that just shows you that there's a lack of depth in their education, and this superficial anecdotal stuff or something that they see on, like I said, they're hearing it from a friend, they're seeing it on the cover of a magazine, not even watching the Dr. Oz episode, they're just seeing the teaser commercial or something like that. Like, some of these people are doing research. I don't want to say everybody isn't, but you have to understand some people are influenced by one compelling short message, and that's all that they need. That's all they feel they need to try to commit to a pretty significant life-changing decision. And the worst thing is if they get burnt out on that. So if someone switches to vegan and they're just not used to not having that taste or sensation or whatever it is of biting into meat and consuming meat, they might just quit your program altogether, because they're eating the vegan stuff, they're using you for the vegan stuff. And if I quit doing the vegan thing, because I tried to commit 100% to vegan, if I fail at that, I'm just gonna go back to whatever I was eating before. Keep them mindful of the fact that if you do provide other options and animal-based proteins, they can wean themselves in through the shallow end and transition to a plant-based diet, experimenting on your menu with things that are new to see if they like them, but without committing and diving into the deep end and ending up in over their head. I would strongly suggest checking out Forks Over Knives. Game Changers was a pretty good one, and like I said, Game Changers is the newest one. It's November 1st of 2019. That movie was actually, I think, from 2018, but it just now reached, I guess, a viral point where enough people have shared it and spoken about it, where there's that tipping point that Malcolm Gladwell describes, where all of a sudden something goes from existing but not being widely accepted to all of a sudden being accepted enough to be noticeable in the population. And that's what we're seeing. We're having existing members who are going from eating steak quesadillas to asking about our plant-based options and vegan options. And in the movie Game Changers, they don't use the term vegan as much, and I think there was a strategy behind that, because there's obviously connotations to veganism, and they use the term plant-based. So now people are calling, as I mentioned with that one gentleman, asking for plant-based options, even though they are just looking at the vegan options. I would also suggest, if you have the skill level and you are doing vegan, try to keep it familiar. We do vegan meatloaf. It's obviously meatless meatloaf. I think that's actually what we're now calling it, has been the vegan meatless meatloaf or something like that. Get stuff that's as familiar as possible to help these people transition. I've experienced that demos and things like that, when we bring, we do these peanut butter energy bites, and they're raw, they're vegan. As soon as I tell someone that they're vegan, they're like, no, I'm good. It's like, dude, try that. If they try it first and I tell them they're vegan, they're like, woo, woo. But a lot of people are so turned off by the term vegan. As I said, I think there was a strategy in Game Changers deliberately not mentioning vegan as much. It is mentioned, but a lot of people leave that movie looking for plant-based. That's the terminology that they really nailed in their head. And that's great. And I like it because it's good for the environment. And there's a lot of arguments, but if you go deep enough in it, it is better for the environment. And you also have a lot of evidence out there, very compelling evidence, that it is also good for your health. The arguments that they make in Game Changer are actually pretty superb, because we all want to be altruistic and do things for the benefit of society and animals and the environment. But at the core, if it's not convenient, if it's not easy, and if it's not something that we get a benefit of, we don't have as much of a pull to do it. If I invited you to pick up trash along the road on a Saturday, 1 out of 10 people will show up. If I told you that I was paying you $100 to come pick up trash on the road on a Saturday, I'd get a much higher turnout, right? The Game Changers documentary did a much better job, I think, at keeping the altruistic stuff towards the end, and they did a lot of what's in it for me kind of content in the beginning. They did blood tests, they spoke to very successful, high-performing athletes, several world record holders, and just top-level performers from football, powerlifting, UFC, endurance sports. One dude was running Appalachian Trail, which took him 40-something days, and he said it's basically doing 2 marathons a day over mountains. So it's not like a flat New York marathon or something like that. He's going through the Appalachian Trail, the mountains on the Appalachian Trail, for 40-something days. Normally takes people, I think 3 to 5 months or something like that. He set a new world record. Check that out. It's really good. They also had a power lifter who set the world record for the heaviest amount of weight carried by a human being, 1,200 and something pounds. And he's been completely plant-based for a while. So this is the kind of information, very compelling information, I'm sure you'd agree, that has been put in your clients' heads. And this is something that you should at least be aware of, so you know what they're hearing. Do your own research. Check out the methods of how they tested the blood. Check out the peer-reviewed studies that they did to either give you, like I said, more confidence in agreeing with them, or some counter arguments that may help them alter their decision or adjust their perspective to something that's more realistic for them and correlated with the goals that they want. As I said before, there's never going to be a shortage of these documentaries. There's probably going to be one coming out in a few months that's going to tell you that the carnivore diet is the best thing, and you're going to have people calling you asking to only have animal proteins, and it's just going to go back and forth. We have people emailing us asking for the keto diet and spelling it completely incorrectly. We have people, a lot of the times when you get them on the phone and you ask them if they're doing keto, they'll say yes, and then you ask them if they're getting into ketosis or checking their ketone levels, and they have no idea what you're talking about. Again, that's not going to be everybody, but part of the responsibility that you have is to help them understand what their real goal is and how to best achieve it. All right, guys, I'm back at Fit Food Fresh, going to go back into work. We've got a meeting coming up in an hour, so I hope that was enough. I hope it wasn't too much. And as always, if there's something you want me to go into more detail about, or something that you don't think I covered or considered, I want to know about it. Hit the alerts, hit the subscribes if you haven't done that already, and check out that link below for the free ordering system. Check it out. It might help you get off the basic rudimentary Google Sheet kind of or spreadsheet situation that you're in. Hopefully it'll make things a bit easier for you. It's 100% free. I've already made it, so I might as well pass it on to someone else who can get some use out of it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and best of luck with your projects.